Today we're going to install the Gator SR1 cover on this 2019 new body style GMC Sierra. Now this is the same install as the Chevy Silverado. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do before we get this put onto this bed cap is get the rail ready. Now this is the passenger side rail. When you go up to the front end, the end cap faces towards the cab of the truck. You're going to see the letter P. We're going to flip that upside down. We'll see the seal from the bottom of the seal, but there's no seal underneath the end cap. So in our kit, we're going to have a seal kit. So we're going to find the corner seal that coordinates with the passenger side rail end cap. And we're going to peel that off and just place it right onto the end cap itself. We're going to do that on both passenger and driver side rails and then set them up on top of the bed caps. All right, now this is the point in time where we go ahead and put the bulkhead seal onto the truck. This particular truck already has a bulkhead seal installed. If it did not have a bulkhead seal installed, we'd want to wipe the surface of the bulkhead down with rubbing alcohol, go from one end of the bed cap to the other end, touch the other bed cap, make sure that it's cut tight to both sides. Also make sure it's as far back on top of the bulkhead as possible before it starts to roll down into the bed. All right, now we've got our cover that we're going to attach to our rails. The header bar is already attached to the cover. You'll notice you have a seal on that header bar. That seal needs to be faced down on top of the bulkhead. Also make sure your straps are dropping down into the bed of the truck as well. Okay, so when we peel back the cover, we're going to notice that header bar is hollow and this end cap has a piece that's going to plug into that header bar. Make sure, again, that that seal is facing down, not towards the cab of the truck, otherwise it's not going to work right. We're going to take this rail, we're just going to slide it into the header bar. It's a very tight fit. Do that on both sides. We'll also make sure once that's done that the cover is centered side to side because this can still slide back and forth inside the header bar. Okay, now here is one of our clamps. We're going to have 3 clamps per side. What we're going to do is loosen up these clamps. Now I like to rotate this bolt to where it's almost all the way out, backed out. That way I can pull this clamp apart. Let's pull it apart like so. I'm going to rotate this off to the side. This portion right here is going to go underneath my bed cap. I'm going to rotate this back around again. Now the top part of this clamp can marry into the grooves under the rail. The grooves on the clamp match up perfectly to the grooves on the rail. I'm also going to feel underneath the bed cap and make sure there's no obstructions in my way. I'm going to slide this as far forward without having any obstructions. Then I'm going to pull the clamp together and then go ahead and put that in there just finger tight for right now. We still want to be able to adjust things before we tighten everything all together. Once we've done that, we're going to do the other 2 clamps on this side and repeat the same process on the opposite side. All right, now for our center clamp, I'm going to do the exact same thing, spread it apart, pull it to the side, put it back together. Now a feel for obstructions. I do have an obstruction underneath the bed cap right here, so I'm going to pull it right next to that and then squeeze it together, and again just hand tight for right now so we can adjust it. Now the third clamp, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to bring it up underneath the bed cap. There is a little bit of an obstruction right over here, so that's fine because I'm kind of out of the way of that. I'm just going to put the clamp all the way into the rail. This one has a little bit of a sticker on top of it. I'm just basically bearing down on the sticker. That's not going to hurt anything. And then just do the same thing on the opposite side. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and roll the cover towards the tailgate. Now, as I roll this down, you're going to see some load bars that roll out with the cover, and they're going to land on top of the rail. If that load bar is landing on top of a clamp, you need to move the clamp. But we're probably not going to have that issue because where we placed our clamps. Okay, now when we get to the tailgate, this is what we call our tail rail. The tail rail needs to lock into our lock mechanism. We've got to do that on both sides. Now, we want to make sure, number one, that this is centered in between both sides, and also make sure we only have about 1/8 of an inch of a gap. So because I have not tightened down those clamps, I can still slide this rail in to where I have just an 1/8 inch gap. Now I want to do that on both sides and make sure everything is still centered. So I don't want to have this rail hanging down into the bed of the truck more than the opposite rail is. So make sure they're centered on both sides and make sure you have an 1/8 inch gap. All right. Once you've locked it down, just to test it, you can go ahead and unlatch it from both sides. And then we're going to roll it very gently back up to the bulkhead so we can tighten down our clamps. All right, now that our rails are aligned, we're going to go ahead and tighten everything down using a 1/2 inch wrench or ratchet. All right, now it's just necessary to get these nice and snug. No need to over tighten them. All right, and tighten down the clamps on the other side the exact same way. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and roll it back to the tailgate. When we get to the tail rail, we're going to see these areas here on the bottom of the tail rail where it needs a seal. So back to our seal kit, we're going to go ahead and find the correct seal, pull it off, and then just stick it to the tail rail. Do that on both sides. All right, now we can go ahead and test the operation of the cover. Rock it in place, lock it in place, and I'm going to go ahead and set the Velcro along the sides. That pulls any of the puckers out of the top of the cover. Well, that concludes the installation. If you have any questions, call the experts or visit us online.